All right, everybody, welcome aboard here to the Sports Talk Nation. Before we get going on this video, as we're going to talk about the NFL Draft, the Jets, Zach Wilson, I just want to make one announcement here. We have hit 1,000 subscribers. 1,000, we have hit it. I want to thank you all for tuning in all these years, subscribing, coming back, subscribing. I want to thank you all for being a part of it. Let's keep this going here, because right now we're in the midst of a New York renaissance, if you will, because you got the Knicks, you got the Rangers, all in the playoffs. You got the Mets playing well. We got the Jets and Giants going at it in the draft. Like and subscribe right here to the Sports Talk Nation for more. Now, let's get right to the video. So it's all over, folks. The Jets are moving on from Zach Wilson as they ship him to the Denver Broncos. Ship both Zach Wilson and a 7th-round pick to the Denver Broncos in exchange for a 6th-round pick. The two teams will end up splitting the money right down the middle. $5.5 million Wilson was owed going into training camp this year, so Denver will pay about $2.75 million, and the Jets will pay another $2.75 million, and that is it. Of course, Wilson does have a 5th-year option on the table for about $22 million. You know Denver's never going to pay that unless Wilson ends up starting and turns his entire career around. So Denver is going to just have him in there as an experiment to see what they can do to try to reclaim what they can from this quarterback. And look, Wilson, it's ironic that this all happens on draft week, because just 3 years ago, Zach Wilson was the apple of the eye of so many different draft experts. You heard from anybody who talked about Zach Wilson just a few years ago, you thought that this guy was going to be the next big thing. People were comparing him to Patrick Mahomes. It wasn't right, but they were making those comparisons. Talking about the off-platform throws. We all know about the throw that he made during his pro day at BYU that everyone was oohing and ahhing about. It just wasn't going to work in New York. It just wasn't. It just wasn't going to work in New York. It was hard for me to believe back then, and it was painful to watch over the last 3 years. They take a young player who was a bit undersized, had a small frame, coming from a school in BYU that outside of Steve Young hadn't produced a lot of great quarterback play, and was playing a very soft schedule. This wasn't exactly like he was playing against teams in the SEC or the Big Ten. It was odd to me that the Jets were considering taking him so high to begin with, but they did, and they ended up regretting it. But the Jets did everything. It felt like the Jets over these 3 years did everything they could to either A, help him, and then when they realized it wasn't worth it, they tried everything they could to replace him, whether it be with Mike White, whether it be with Aaron Rodgers, trying to shoehorn Wilson behind Rodgers this past year as a quarterback that they could hope that could get groomed under Rodgers, and maybe by 2024 or 25 would flourish at some point. That, of course, did not happen after Rodgers got hurt. And chances are it may never have happened even if Rodgers had stayed healthy. Wilson just didn't work out in New York. He just didn't have it here. You take a look statistically, one of the worst quarterbacks in the league, ranked 35th out of 36 qualified quarterbacks, completion percentage at 57%, QBR rating at 33.6. It just... So I think in a lot of ways, folks, it's good that he is on his way out of town. He gets to go back home, close to home, towards Utah, playing in Denver, playing for Sean Payton, who everyone says is a quarterback expert, but let's be honest, this is the same Sean Payton who, when he had Russell Wilson there, went there trying to figure him out, couldn't get on the same page as Russell Wilson, and now Russell Wilson's in Pittsburgh. So take that for what you will. The Jets had to move on. They save money, which is the biggest thing of all. They move up a couple of picks in the draft to the 6th round. They get rid of a distraction that would have been an issue if had they not been able to trade Wilson at all going into OTAs and obviously training camp. That's now all out the door. And now the focus for the Jets is very simple. Who are they going to draft this week? And that's all that matters. That's all that matters. That's all we need to talk about. So let's just jump right into that. As the Jets right now, look, there's three different directions, and there's 4 players that keep getting mentioned a lot with the Jets. Obviously, tight end is a position that a lot of the Jets could consider here in the draft. Wide receiver or offensive line. All 3 are in many ways needs for this team. They need skill players. They need skill players who can make plays. and to help this passing game. And they also need to find some more bodies to protect Aaron Rodgers, because you do have two older guys in Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses, both guys who have had injury history. Even AVT has had injury history over the last 2 years. You want to have some collateral there on the offensive line. So what do the Jets do? Do they stay at 10? Do they move up? Do they move down? They could do many different things. And this is also playing a part with what the Giants might try to do during this draft, because the Giants have been considering a quarterback. So this is going to be fascinating to watch. Now, Connor Hughes put out his mock draft, and it's quite interesting. Obviously, we all know that Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy are the top 4 quarterbacks in this draft, and somehow that's going to shake out after Williams goes to Chicago with the number 1 overall pick. Somehow those other 3 quarterbacks will follow suit. Now, according to Connor Hughes, he has the Arizona Cardinals trading out of the number 4 overall pick to Minnesota, and the Vikings jump the Giants and take McCarthy. A lot of people think that the Giants were going to go out there and covet McCarthy as a quarterback and just make their quarterback situation even more muddled than it already is, with Daniel Jones and Drew Lock, and of course Tommy DeVito. The Giants want to go out there and draft another quarterback in McCarthy and just start this whole thing all over again, when they've already done this to themselves by signing Daniel Jones to a mega contract, which they did before last season. They still got 3 years and a lot of money to go in that contract. So if, let's just say it by this, but with this Connor Hughes mock draft that the Vikings draft McCarthy, that also makes it interesting. He has the Jets potentially moving up in the draft to get Marvin Harrison Jr. What a pickup that would be. Marvin Harrison Jr., a 6'4" wide receiver out of Ohio State, played with Garrett Wilson at Ohio State. That would be a home run pick if the Jets end up with Marvin Harrison Jr. In their lap at some point in this draft, if that indeed comes to play. Now, the Jets are going to have to trade up to make that happen with, let's just say here, the Chargers, who are the 5th overall pick, or maybe if they trade up with the Cardinals, if the Cardinals want to really get out of that 4th overall pick and they're not convinced on taking Marvin Harrison Jr. for themselves, that would be enormous if the Jets could make that happen. Now, keep in mind, again, going back to not just the Jets here who need playmakers, but the Giants. Could the Giants also be in play for wide receiver? If they don't go quarterback, a lot of people think they may be in for Malik Nabers, maybe even Marvin Harrison as well. The other receiver that's involved in this is Rome Odunze. And Rome Odunze has been the guy that a lot of people have going to the Jets or getting close to going to the Jets if they stay at 10. If the Jets do not move at all in this draft, they could have the Washington wide receiver fall to them as well. And Odunze is a very good player as well. Had 92 catches for 1,600 yards last year, 13 touchdowns with Washington, one of the top receiving prospects out there. So those are the 3 big receivers: Nabers, Odunze, and Marvin Harrison. Could one of those guys end up with gangrene come Thursday night? Now, the other option out there is going to be Brock Bowers. Everyone's in on Brock Bowers. Everyone wants to compare Brock Bowers to Travis Kelce or George Kittle. I say slow down. Yes, he is 6'4", but again, when it comes to the Jets and tight ends, for some reason they just have had a bad history of this. Kyle Brady, Anthony Becht, who was a good player, smart football guy. Dustin Keller just had a lot of injuries. So the tight end position has always been kind of in flux for the Jets over the years. Plus, they have 2 tight ends already in Tyler Conklin and Jeremy Ruckert. What do they think they're going to get out of Ruckert at this point, who's been somewhat quiet on the depth chart? Now, if they feel that Bowers is that guy who can be a huge difference maker, and Joe Douglas has kind of hinted that he feels that he could be that kind of player, do the Jets just stand pat at 10? And even if they have someone like a Rome Odunze out there at sitting there at 10, do they just go out there and say, look, Brock Bowers is our guy, he's above Odunze in this draft, and we select him? It's going to be very fascinating to see. For me, I would take the wide receiver. I would take either Odunze or Marvin Harrison. If I could jump up and get Marvin Harrison, I would do it. We'll have to wait and see how this thing breaks out. Or the Jets could just go with the offensive lineman and have, either a Joe Alt or an Olu Fashuno. You could take them, maybe trade down, get Fashuno if they wanted to, try to beef up that offensive line. So many different things the Jets could do here in this draft. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what they do. in the next coming days as we lead up to the NFL draft. So, folks, leave your thoughts below. What do you think? What would you do if you were Joe Douglas in this draft? Would you trade up? Would you trade down? Would you stand pat? And if you do that, who are you taking? We'll talk to you next time right here on the Sports Talk Nation.